On tonight's show, Red Alert. Wyndham reaches a concerning level of COVID-19 cases. We have a reporter with the latest on how this is impacting schools. Life in quarantine. With cases on the rise, what is the process of self-isolation like for a student on campus? Sammy Honeywell speaks with a student who went through it. And the new normal. Jared Soltis shows us what campus life is like here at Eastern. All this tonight on the October 22nd edition of ETV News.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Connor O'Malley. Thank you so much for joining us. A developing story. Wyndham becomes the first town in Connecticut to roll back to Phase 2 of the state's reopen plan. This comes as Wyndham jumped to what the state is calling red alert levels. How has all of this impacted Wyndham High School right across the street? Reporter Megan Selensky has that story.
Wyndham County has been declared as a COVID hotspot this week. I'm here at the abandoned Wyndham High School as students are forced fully into online learning according to the governor's newest mandate. According to state officials, a town is considered a red alert area when their daily COVID-19 cases are 15 or higher per 100,000 people.
Governor Lamont made an announcement that Wyndham, as he's deeming it, is called a red alert area. And that kind of decision in it said to go to more remote learning possibilities for school systems.
Although the situation is constantly changing, faculty and staff members remain hopeful and rely on the Wyndham community.
Our staff has done an amazing job to keep the schools safe. We're following all the measures, and then it's just important to know that the mitigation strategies work within the school, but they're only as successful as what's occurring out in the community.
Wyndham High may be closed over here across the street, but the university is still open on a hybrid model, allowing a limited number of students into the classroom. In a statement, the Director of University Relations, Edward Osborne, tells us that the Eastern's administration continues to work closely with the Connecticut Department of Health and local officials to monitor the COVID-19 pandemic in our community. We trust our local officials to make the decisions they must make to manage the public health in our local schools. On our own campus, we are very appreciative of our students, faculty, and staff for maintaining the healthy protocols we have in place to keep the campus safe. Wearing a face mask all the time, maintaining social distancing, and following the other measures we have put into place are helping us manage COVID-19 on our campus.
I think that someone would have to be, really brazen to think that there would be zero cases, because I just don't think that's a realistic expectation.
Staying together, one community against COVID-19.
One of the underlying issues that we're starting to kind of see is the negative health impacts on society, in particular 16 to 24-year-olds. We're starting to see a lot of evidence that suggests there's a lot of potential mental health problems that are occurring because of the pandemic. You know, if you're having those types of feelings, if you're having those types of negative mental health kind of episodes or outbreaks, I think it's important just to understand that, again, you're probably not alone.
Wyndham School District has said that they hope that the close isn't permanent and are planned to returning to the hybrid model in a few weeks. For ETV News, I'm Megan Selensky.
With Wyndham seeing a rise in positive cases, let's send it over to Lexi Nimitz, who has the latest on the COVID-19 numbers from here on campus. Lexi?
Connor, good evening. Let's take a look at the latest testing numbers we have from the last 2 weeks. Since we last brought them to you, 909 residents were tested. Out of that group, there were 6 residential students who tested positive, along with 9 commuter students. This gives us a total of 17 residential cases and 30 commuter cases. For the week of October 12th, the residential students have a positivity rate of 0.0045%. A total of 13 residential students are utilizing the isolation beds and 14 commuter students are in self-isolation. Since classes have started on campus, a total of 2,685 students have been tested. Remember that Eastern will be continuing to release their testing numbers each Friday, and they can be found on the reopening page of Eastern's website at easternct.edu/coronavirus. Connor?
Lexi, thank you. With a rise in cases, more and more people are having to quarantine. What is that experience like? Sammy Honeywell spoke with someone who went through it.
It is week 8 of classes for students here at Eastern Connecticut State University, and with a rise in cases in the area, Windham County is now officially in the red zone. Although Eastern's positive cases still remain low, there are still a number of students having to quarantine here on campus. According to Eastern's COVID-19 numbers released at the end of each week, residential students have had a total of 17 positive COVID cases. Junior Kyle Smith was following all necessary precautions when he received the news that someone he was in contact with tested positive for the virus.
I got the call on Friday morning at like around 11 o'clock-ish, and then they said they would tell me like what I had to do in a further email. So I got 2 emails. And the first one just said I was going to be going to Winthrop, and the second email said that I would have to go in by 5 o'clock that day. I pretty much just grabbed my bedding, my clothes, a little bit of food, not too much food, and like my shower stuff.
Eastern has designated both Winthrop Hall and parts of low-rise apartments as quarantine dorms. Just hours after getting the call from the contact tracer, Kyle packed up and headed to Winthrop Hall.
Every day we would get 3 meals. This is on weekdays. We would get 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it would be whatever they would serve that day. So you had to place that order by 2 o'clock the day before, so that way they could have it ready for the next day. So it was mostly just staying in your room. You could go outside in the immediate area, and you could like walk around the top, which is what I did. I would try to do like 10 laps a day or so. And it's a small area, but pretty much just stay in your room and try to stay away from as many people as possible. Don't go out and talk to the other people because they're trying to quarantine too, and you don't want to risk spreading anything.
After quarantining for 12 days, the experience underscores the importance of staying safe during these uncertain times.
I wouldn't say it was the most fun I've ever had. It was just kind of a lot of just staying inside, which I don't really like to do. That's just me personally. I know some people like to watch TV all day. But I'm more of an active person, so I didn't really enjoy being in quarantine too much. Plus, I saw my friends and everything.
Kyle was released from quarantine last Tuesday, and according to the numbers, there are 13 isolation and quarantine beds being used right now. For ETV News, I'm Sammy Honeywell. Stay safe, Eastern.
With COVID-19 impacting everything we do, Eastern has implemented a number of precautions in an effort to keep the campus safe and open. Jared Soltis details how Eastern has been able to stay open 8 weeks into the semester.
It's been 58 days since students at Eastern Connecticut started their first day of on-ground classes. However, to say things look a bit different around the university would be an understatement. The coronavirus pandemic has called for some wholesale changes to the university.
There's 500 gallons, 500 hand sanitizers that we bought, and there are a huge gallon dispensers. I'm sure you've seen them.
Ed Osborne has been the director of university relations for the last 18 years at Eastern.
There's 6,500 signs inside and outside of the building saying, wash your hands, wear your mask, one-way traffic. All of those were supplied by the state. In the classroom buildings and in the classrooms, there's plexiglass partitions everywhere so the faculty can safely lecture.
As of October 16th, 2,685 residential students have been tested for COVID-19, and only 17 of those students have tested positive.
I think the key thing is for people just to stay patient, not only with themselves, but with each other. Don't try to do too much. Do as much as you can. I don't try to evaluate whether I'm as efficient now as I was a year ago or whatever. You just have to do what you can.
One of the biggest questions about the return to campus this fall was the challenge of housing and residential life. For Eastern Connecticut's Director of Housing and Residential Life, Lamar Coleman, this summer brought with it many new challenges.
Probably putting all the measures in place, creating all of the plans and all of the protocols and, actually implementing them.
Along with campus life, dorm life has transcended itself into something completely different than it has in years past. Several changes needed to be made to accommodate the numerous guidelines set by the state.
The biggest change, which I guess is number 8, is that we've had to restrict guest visitation. If visitation were business as usual, and if someone tested positive, then that would make the contact tracing 10 times harder.
For both Osborne and Coleman, they believe the university has been very effective in the execution of these new policies.
We've been doing pretty well. The numbers are low, and we're optimistic that we're going to be able to get to the Thanksgiving break.
Our positivity rate continues to remain very, very low compared to other universities that are having to close down and shut down and, pivot to remote learning.
On-ground classes here at Eastern Connecticut will be conducted until November 24th. Following that, the final 2 weeks of the semester will be conducted fully online. As for the spring 2021 semester, the hope is a full-fledged return to campus. Reporting here from Eastern Connecticut State University, Jarrett Soltis, ETV News.
When we come back, we'll have a look at headlines from around Connecticut and the country. We'll be right back.
Why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others.
For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Connor O'Malley. A man accused of conspiracy to commit murder in the disappearance of Jennifer Farber-Dulos was released from prison Monday. Dulos, a mother of 5 kids, disappeared in May 2019 and is presumed dead. Kent Mawhinney is a former friend and attorney of Dulos' estranged husband, Fotis Dulos. Dulos killed himself after being charged with a murder. A judge recently lowered the bond for Mawhinney from $2 million to just under $250,000, so he can visit his sick father in Florida. On his release, Mawhinney was required to return over his passport and wear an ankle GPS monitor. Michelle Troconis, who is Mawhinney's co-defendant and former girlfriend of Fotis Dulos, is also charged with conspiracy to commit murder. She was also recently allowed to travel to Florida to visit her father, who had coronavirus. Mawhinney and Troconis have pled not guilty. The Stanford-based OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma has agreed to plead guilty to federal criminal charges in a record multi-billion-dollar settlement with the federal government. It's all over the privately held company's role in creating the U.S. opioid crisis. Purdue Pharma paid doctors to write opioid prescriptions, leading to massive painkiller abuse by millions. The settlement money will be used to fund opioid treatment programs. The U.S. Deputy Attorney General said Wednesday, Purdue will pay out more than $8 billion.
In addition to the company having agreed to plead guilty to these 3 felony counts, the company has agreed to a $3.544 billion criminal fine and a $2 billion criminal forfeiture amount. Further, on top of those, to resolve its civil liability, Purdue Pharma has agreed to $2.8 billion in damages to the United States.
Purdue Pharma will be dissolved as part of the criminal charges. Its assets will be used to create a new government-controlled company. That new company will continue to produce painkillers such as OxyContin, as well as drugs to deal with opioid overdose. The money that the new company makes will be used to combat the opioid crisis. The settlement is subject to approval by a bankruptcy court. The Catholic News Agency reports that Pope Francis has declared support for same-sex civil unions for the first time during his tenure as pontiff. He made the declaration in a documentary film called Francesco, released in Rome on Wednesday. In the film, the Pope reportedly said, quote, "Homosexual people have a right to be in a family. They're children of God and have a right to a family." He then called for the creation of civil union laws. As Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Francis endorsed same-sex civil unions over same-sex marriage when Argentina was discussing legal same-sex marriages. John Oliver's rant about a town here in Connecticut has earned him his name on the city's sewer plant, and the late-night talk show host was there for the dedication. Danbury Mayor Mark Boughton posted a picture with Oliver to commemorate the moment, but Boughton originally suggested the name change to show his anger towards Oliver. On August 16th, the host of HBO's Last Week Tonight did a segment on racial disparities on juries. During the segment, Oliver flew into a rant aimed at the city of Danbury. That's when Boughton suggested naming their sewer plant after Oliver. Oliver took the offer and ran with it, saying he would donate $55,000 to local charities if the mayor agreed. Boughton agreed, and the TV host held up his end of the offer. While it is unclear why Danbury was singled out, its residents are happy it was. Coming up, we'll take you inside the newest art on display in the Fine Arts Instructional Center. Don't go anywhere.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
Eastern's Art Gallery recently opened The Future is Latinx, a showcase of 15 modern Latinx artists. The exhibition anticipates not only the future of the art world, but the country as a whole. A wide variety of styles of art also shows the message and creativity of the artists. The gallery will be open until December 6th. With midterms complete, students are beginning to prepare for the spring semester. Priority deadlines for registration are here. Juniors and seniors have already met with their faculty advisors and have begun to sign up for courses throughout eWeb. Juniors can still meet with their advisor and plan to register for classes Monday at 7 a.m. Sophomores have their advising week next week and register on November 2nd, and freshmen have their advising week November 9th through the 13th, and their registration date is November 16th. Students should plan accordingly and set up their web meetings or communicate via email to get access codes for their registration start dates. Priority selection will end in November. However, registration will be open until winter break. Eastern students were reminded in an email to wear your mask at all times while on campus in accordance with university policy. They were reminded that mask wearing and social distancing are required in every building, including the library. Students were told that not following this rule is a student conduct violation. The only place that masks are not required are in your dorm room. As of October 15th, the UPS will no longer be delivering packages to the resident halls as a result of COVID-19. The packages will be dropped off at the shipping and receiving or mail services. Housing and residential staff will pick up the packages at their drop-off location and will then be delivered to their right hall. There will be a 1 to 2 day delay to the halls due to the fact that staff workers do not work on weekends or holidays. Earlier this month, students and staff were issued an alert from campus police stating that there have been numerous car break-ins on campus. These instances have all occurred as a result of people not locking their cars. The email was sent out as a reminder to everyone to not leave any valuables behind and to make sure that you lock your car before leaving it unattended. The Sports Center weight room opened back up Monday and will be open throughout the week. The cardio room will remain closed, but the weight room and racquetball courts are available. You must sign up online through a Google Sheet as only 6 people are allowed per time slot. Slots are for 30 minutes with 10 minutes of cleanup. Before entering, you must submit a wellness survey to the staff to be allowed in. The entrance to the weight room is marked with spaces on the side door of the Sports Center near the parking lot. The Little East Conference hosted a virtual men's golf tournament that concluded this weekend at each team's home course. Eastern's men's golf team returned to play after a 38-year absence, finishing it in first place out of 5 teams. Eastern won by 9 strokes over Southern Maine. The Invitational was an 18-hole event where the Warriors' top 4 finishers ended up 6 over par at the Wyndham Golf Club. There were some individual Warriors that were under par during this Invitational and were the top finishers for Eastern. Freshman Ashton Lewis was 5 under par for the day, while fellow freshman Jonah DePius finished as the tournament being 3 under par. The men's golf team hopes to resume the competition in the spring. With Election Day just under 2 weeks away, we have a message from the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities on voting in this election. We'll show it to you.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Thank you all for sticking with us. Before we let you go, take a look at this PSA featuring President of the CSCU system, Marco Jakian, detailing all the info you need to know to vote this election season.
Your vote is your opportunity to shape the future of our nation and our state. And this year, it's easier to do than ever. But you need to know how to do it. This year, everyone is eligible to vote either in person or absentee. If you're planning on voting in person, Election Day is November 3rd, and polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Make sure you're registered and find your polling location at myvote.ct.gov. If you plan on voting absentee, you can either drop your ballot off at the secure drop box in your town, or you can put your ballot in the mail. If you're using the mail, make sure to give yourself plenty of time to get your ballot there before Election Day. And make sure you read the instructions carefully. Either way, make a plan. Know when and how you are going to vote. And most importantly, vote.
Make sure you get out there and vote, Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us. All of us at ETV News hope you continue to stay safe and healthy. And just keep remembering, we're all in this together. Good night, Eastern.